I guess let me just start broadly here with property tax cuts. You are going around the state because you really want to advocate for this. Tell me about what people should know when it comes to this topic, just like the basis.
Well, and thank you. That's a great question. First off, let's just frame this as what it is. This is the American dream. We're talking about home ownership. Everybody wants to own their home. You know, I think back to my parents. You know, I'm the son of a failed farmer. They told me and raised me, you need to own your home. That's where your family is going to grow up. When you have kids, it'll matter so much to you. It's true. I have two boys in the house. They're 10 and 13. I want this for them as well. But this comes down to property tax, and do you really ever own your home if you're paying taxes to the government? The governor has done a fantastic job of framing that up in that manner. You really don't. If the government can take it, you don't own it. So what we're talking about is homesteaded properties. How can we get rid of the homesteaded property tax and make sure that when you pay for your home, you own it free and clear of the government? That's what it should be, getting the government out of the way. We do so much, so right in Florida, so many things that we've been attacked and people push back on over and over and over again, but we were right. Look at COVID. Governor DeSantis stood alone on an island during COVID. People ask, where would we be as Florida? I'd ask, where would we be as a country? Because he stood alone, and then people got along beside him. He's an incredible leader. So let's talk about this. There's a few things that matter. It's a ballot initiative. You have to have 60% of the ballot across the state support this. That matters. That's a huge number. So you can't have 6, 7, 8 initiatives on the ballot at once. None of those will pass. Overwhelmingly, when I go county to county, community to community, people want property tax reform. They want homesteaded properties exempt. That's what I hear from owners everywhere I go. So the next question that comes up is this. Are you afraid that it's going to gut our law enforcement? Look, I'm a military guy. I did 23 years in the military. My wife's a 20-year veteran. I have nothing but support, love, and we'll do anything to protect our men and women in law enforcement. It is time, it is tools, it's training. Give them everything they need to complete their mission, but get back home to their families. It's the person behind the badge, behind the uniform. I can promise you this, nobody is going to take anything away from our men and women in law enforcement or our firefighters. You have to prioritize what people spend on. You take care of education, you take care of those who serve our community, you take care of common needs like roads. That's what matters. So the last part is this. Well, it's going to have to come from somewhere. What about sales tax? No one's going to increase your sales tax. That's nuts. We're not going to do it. We're not going to harm the number one industry that draws people in. But let's be honest, disproportionately, people who visit the state pay far more in taxes than anybody else does. That should stay that way. I want to protect our people. I'm loyal to Floridians first. That's what we should do, and that's exactly why property tax is something we should take on right now.
So how do you think we would solve it? Where would the money come from?
So let's look at the numbers. Huge in certain counties, right? 6 to 8% is what we're talking about of the money that comes from property tax comes from homesteaded properties. Now some counties are a little higher. You know, I think the highest I saw was 11. The lowest was somewhere like 3 or 4%. That's solvable. That math works. So you know we have FAFO, as Blaise Ngolea, our CFO, talks about, or Doge. We're going around, we're finding out and calling out wasted spending in communities. There's a lot of it. I live in Hillsborough County. It was 200 million or something like that in a single year of wasted taxpayer dollars. These numbers are solvable. Let's look at other things. Have we looked into purchasing when it comes to vehicles, to fire trucks, to buses? How do we maximize the law of large numbers when we do our purchases? Are we maximizing our potential there? Are there things we can do to have a more cohesive approach as a state while still giving people the choices they want? Absolutely there are. We should do that. I think there's things we can do with insurance for our first responders and better ways to cut those rates down as well. There's plenty of meat on the bone, ways to solve this. I'm expecting the governor to put out his proposal here fairly soon. When he does that, we'll talk in more detail about what he's going to do, but that's his to release. I have his back completely. I'm not going to talk about perhaps some things that we've discussed or others have, but that's coming out soon. And when he does, let's come back here, let's do this again and talk in detail on what he releases in his plan. Sound good?
Yes, absolutely. I was a little curious though, because I know our first responders are such a priority. Do you think anything along the lines of other little government run sort of libraries, do you think they would get kind of lost in the mix here?
Yeah, so I can't imagine that you are going to have to cut things like that. I really don't see that. Ultimately, we're talking about wasted spending, pet projects, money wasted on things that have nothing to do with the common good. You know, the governor put this very succinctly. In our federal government, even though we're in timeout right now, right? There's a lockdown. Why do we have non-essential parts of our government? If it's not essential, why is it there? What are we doing? It's not the government's money, it's the taxpayers' money. We have to protect the people and keep that money being utilized in the right places and not being wasted because of poor judgment or things that don't matter. You know, in some counties, there were poet laureates being paid for with taxpayer dollars. Why on earth are we doing that? Is that really something we have to have as a county or as a state? I don't think so. That can be done through private enterprise. I also think we can save a lot doing more public-private partnerships when done properly. That's a magic elixir to solve real problems in this state.
And I'm curious, with the property tax cuts, do you feel like that would almost align with, I guess, the president's philosophy with there's a lot of unnecessary governing, a lot of unnecessary spending being done here? You
know, it's pretty incredible to see right now a president and a governor who are very much aligned on the same issues. Look, I voted for the president many times, 3 times, right? I fought for him when I was in the military, served in under his lead and his watch. Yeah, I think that there are absolutely excess things in the government and things that we should call out, rightfully so. If it's not benefiting our citizens, it's not providing protection and security to our people, why are we spending our money on it? That doesn't mean we ignore the world around us. I love what he does when it comes to peace through strength because it matters. I don't want our young men and women fighting every war around the globe. I don't. But I do know this, the world is safer and more secure when America leads. And to do that, we have to understand who we are and we have to hold people accountable. What happened in Iran brought peace to the Middle East. We're still working there, right? We had to drop that bomb, call them out on the carpet, and ultimately it brought everything to a head. That matters. That leadership mattered. What was going on with the state? I was actually in Israel on the ground, bringing home 2,300 American citizens under Governor DeSantis' desire. He said, Jay, go bring our people home, and we did. But the president also put out that emergencies are something the states take care of. Anything where our people are at risk, that's an emergency. We should take care of our people. That's good government. We're in a great spot right now as a nation and as a state.
Do you think that the Democrats and the Republicans will kind of agree on this in Tallahassee, or do you think there will be pushback?
Well, I know there are multiple variations of bills right now that were put up by the House. I think there's 8 out there right now, 7 or 8. You got to have one, just one ballot initiative. Anything more than that is going to confuse the voter base. It's not going to be good for what we want to do. This is solvable. I hope this is bipartisan. I think I can promise you Democrats, Republicans, and independents have all talked to me saying, I love the idea of property tax relief. Just don't mess with my cops or my firefighters or whatever it is they wanted to talk about. We're also not going to increase sales tax, right? This is solvable.
The insurance crisis.
Sure.
When are we going to see more of a competitive insurance business happening here?
So actually, we have a lot more competition now than we have in years. So let's take this back. A couple years ago, we did tort reform, right? Substantive tort reform. We had 77% of the litigated cases across America came from Florida. 17% of the claims did. I say this as a guy with 10 fingers and 5 toes. Math always wins, right? That math isn't mathing very well. So what did that mean? It meant we were so happy. There were lawsuits galore. You couldn't drive anywhere without billboards talking about you get in a car crash, call this number, right? So what happened? When tort reform happened, there were thousands of cases that were rushed forward. Put in the court docket, and that took time to get through that. For any good piece of legislation, it takes at least 12 to 18 months for it to truly take hold. It took time. What do we have right now? We have 16 insurance companies providing insurance in the state of Florida. I believe we had 1 or 2 when it was at its lowest. That was tough, and we had citizens, right? 16 right now. There are more primary insurers coming in. There are more secondary insurers coming in. Right now, almost every insurance provider filed hold rates or dropped their rates across the state of Florida when it came to homeowners insurance. Let's talk auto. That tort reform also affected our auto. We were the only state that had our rates drop substantively. I believe there's $1 billion settlement from Progressive that's coming back to Progressive holders because Governor DeSantis negotiated that with what he's done in his leadership on tort reform. All of that being said, our market is stabilizing. It just took time. And I want to give a shout out to our legislators who, like my time in the legislature, it's hard. When someone asks you, like, man, I am dying right here when it comes to insurance prices, I pay it too. You know, believe me, I have 2 boys, they eat a lot. You know, there's a lot of things going on. I wanted my rates lower, but we had to tell them, you've got to be patient. You have to let this language bake its way through the system and really take hold, and you'll see balance. You'll see improvement, and that's where we are. Without equivocation, we cannot roll backwards on tort reform. If we do that, you'll see exponential increase in terms of insurance rates. But that's why property tax relief is so vitally important. I think you'll see incremental stabilization and some dropping of rates in insurance, but property tax is the only lever we can really control as a state. A lot of insurance is driven federally. Everything else, I can't solve that federally. I can solve Florida. But property tax, that's on us. And the state doesn't take any dollars from property tax. Your local municipalities do. That's why it's so important, because we can put money back in people's pockets. And the last thing on that, you know, when you look at property tax, your home value gets more and more every single year. It gets wider and wider and wider. If it's $1 million home, then it's $1.1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million. But then when they do a millage increase, what happens? Now that rate goes vertical. So you're getting hit twice, double dipping on that. And that happens over time, over and over and over again. Have you ever seen someone get a valuation that went down year over year? I sure haven't. I can tell you my home has not gone down in value. It goes up every single year. So you got to stop that merry-go-round. People should own their home free and clear of the government. This isn't politics. This is about people. There are people. It's our communities. That's the kind of leadership we need here in Florida.
Is there anything else you would possibly want to add? I feel like.
No, I think we hit everything. That was a great interview.